We are really excited today because we do have a fantastic session put together and planned, produced, created, and dreamed up by our very fantastic intern from the Met High School, Bellie Karpee. But before we let Bellie take it away, we do have some friends from CIC who want to talk just a little bit about the opportunities to showcase art within CIC.
Hello, everyone. My name's Mel.
I'm Emily.
And we're part of the community team at CIC Providence. If some of you aren't familiar with CIC Providence or CIC in general, CIC stands for Cambridge Innovation Center. And yes, the first center was founded in Cambridge over 20 years ago. But now we actually have sites in 6 different US cities and across 3 international sites as well. The last one just opened last year in Tokyo, Japan. While we are largely membership-based, CIC does recognize the importance of engaging with industries within the greater community, wherever we're located. As you all know, the art community here in Providence is one of the core communities of Rhode Island culture, and we just really wanted to help support that and emulate that within our space. The space itself is kind of designed around that in a way that the second floor is actually named after different art concepts and museums. If you walk through our space, the walls are very bright and lively. We have a lot of murals that were done by local artists in the space. So we're really just trying to find ways to support this community. So one of the ways that we are doing that, this past year, we were able to set some time aside with COVID and work on some personal projects. And one of the projects that we did was to create a Artists of CIC program, which you don't have to be a member to be a part of. We're actually reaching out into the greater community to try and bring people into the space to be a part of this program. Some people that might have otherwise never considered CIC to be an option for them. And Emily's going to tell you a little bit more about that program.
Thanks, Mel. Hey, everyone. Yeah, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure kind of creating this program with Mel and the CIC community. With the pandemic, we've just had a little bit more time to put the time and focus that this program deserves. And it's just been really exciting watching it grow into what it is, and super excited to see what it's going to become in the future. So a little bit about the program. So we've put out a call to local artists who are interested in displaying their work in CIC space. So they submit a photo and we review. The Artist of CIC is 6 months long. After we review, if they're selected to become an Artist of CIC, there's a lot of really cool benefits that come with that. So artists' work are displayed in communal areas in CIC, so hallways, conference rooms, places that get a lot of foot traffic. One of the benefits is that if they would like to sell their artwork, they're able to, and 100% of the commission goes to them. They also have access to CIC meeting space. So we have 22 conference rooms that Artists of CIC would have 24/7 access to. And they receive professional photography of their artwork that's displayed in the space. We also promote the artists on internal and external channels. We have an internal newsletter that goes out every month. This Artist of CIC gets a feature, and also in the external newsletter and on our social media channels. Welcoming artists into our space not only adds richness and diversity to our community, but it also just livens up the space and makes it really fun and exciting. Art is such an awesome conversation piece. And yeah, we're all about that networking and community and conversation. It also brings folks into the space that maybe, like Mel was mentioning, wouldn't have considered CIC as an option before, and more people means more connecting and more networking. And that's what we're all about here at CIC. Let's see. Yeah, so we have 11 artists at this point. We've been doing this for 4 months now. Yeah, since March. So we have 11 artists, a few of which are here tonight. So without further ado, I'd love to pass this over to Bellie and get this program started. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Before we start, there is an event happening at the gallery at City Hall, 25 Doran Street, the second floor. Providence, Rhode Island 02903. If you like to go, there is a flyer up there. Well, hi. My name is Bellie Karpee. I'm a Met High Schooler student. I'm a young artist, and my project is called The Future Creative Minds. This project was mostly about the art world, and me as a young artist, I really truly wanted to know more about the art world. And I was like, what's something that I can do to truly get to know the artists and the gallerists and the business people? And when I started my project here at District Hall, Amy and Tony, everybody was like, oh my God, this is a really good project. Let's start on it immediately. And then I started networking more, and that's when I met Mel and Amy, and that's when they helped me meet these really fantastic artists of mine here. And so, yeah, if you guys can just introduce yourselves to each other and then just tell them how long you guys been artists, or just use the microphones.
Uh, my name is Giovanni Vargas. I guess I've been an artist my entire life, although I would probably say lowercase a, not capital A. But I'm being pushed today to maybe claim that capital A. In terms of my career, I've been an educator for the last 10 years or so, working with middle school students mostly, but now working to recruit mentors for high school students. So if you are a computer scientist and you want to mentor high school students, that's what I'm doing for my 9 to 5. And then with all my other free time, I'm painting.
My name's Leanne Scotto Adams, and I'm a local painter. I graduated locally from the Rhode Island School of Design, and I've lived in Rhode Island for much of my life. I don't paint for a living. I sort of my side hustle, but it's something I've always done. And I actually run a national arts organization for my 9 to 5. Was really excited to apply to the Artist in Residence program to get out of my house. I work from home, so it was very appealing to me to have a space that I could come and connect to the internet and potentially meet other people. Though I haven't actually taken advantage of that yet because it's really great working from home. I expect to start using the space in the fall when my kids go back to school. And I have some time to be able to come over here. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. My name is Isanel. Nice to meet everyone here and finally be back in this space. I am the artist that created this Expo marker mural behind us. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully many more amazing things to come with this space. I am primarily a public artist and painter, and I do a lot of murals and community work in the city of Providence, where I also grew up and was born. I also grew up in the south side of Providence, to be specific, and that's very special to me. And I use a lot of my culture and background as inspiration for my artwork. I'm recently taking some time off of my arts education positions. I always, since 18 years old, I've been a teaching artist for after school programs and organizations in the city. And I recently, at the top of 2021, was like, you know what, I want to focus on me and my career. And since then, I've been doing a lot more large murals. And I hope to continue doing things like that and get into film and that kind of industry work as well in the future. Thank you for being here.
I'll just switch. So if we can just start with the questions with y'all. So my first question is, how do you navigate the art world? The art world's a very large world, but the market world's very small. How do you guys like navigate it?
That's a great question. Anyone want to start? I start. The art world, right? Everything is the art world, right? I want to say a funny thing that came up last year. I was reapplying. I applied to RISD twice, and I love to admit that I got denied both times, right? As a person who was born and raised in the city of Providence, it is really difficult to be connected to the most amazing design school in America. It's right across the street, basically, and it's just been pretty difficult to get some help there. And so a lot of my focus has been making my own city beautiful and working with the people that are around me. And that really catapulted my career in many ways that other people have like put me down for or like told me it wasn't going to work out. But yeah, I applied again at the top of 2020 to study there to finish my last 2 years as an undergrad. And someone who was helping me in that process was like, please do not apply and use like public artist as your name, as like the title. That's not a title that's going to work for you in the fine art world. Just don't do it. And I did it and I got denied. And you know what? I'm so happy I did, because that's not like where I belong. And I really love what I do. And I guess, my advice is don't try to be in the art world, be your own artist. And if it's meant for you, it's going to happen.
I'm sorry to hear that experience. I don't really deal with the art world. I don't even think about it. I just make paintings and put them on Instagram and make sure I use hashtags and then try to sell them. So that's really my experience with the art world. I in my past worked for Christie's auction house and got a really intense, in-depth view of the art world and its inner workings. And as a young woman, having just graduated from an art school, going into that environment, I became really quickly disenchanted with it and decided, this isn't something that I want to pursue or excel in. And I kind of withdrew from art a bit. And only more recently in my adult life have I gone back to it and really started to see painting as a great source of personal freedom and almost like a meditation. So I try to divorce my feelings about painting and making work from the art world and what I view as to be the art world. So
I think my experience is very similar. I don't really engage in the art world. I within the last year, hopped up on Instagram to promote some of the work that I've been doing, but my focus is not really to sell my work. My focus is more just to enjoy the process, learn, grow as an artist, try to get out of my own way, get out of my own space, get out of my own head. But in terms of galleries, in terms of what one might consider the art world, I don't know that I have experience in that. And it sounds like I'm not missing out on much. So maybe I'll just keep on this path.
Beautiful answers. My next question is, how do you see the current social and political issues influencing artists? Are there any new movements in the art world that are a direct reflection of current events?
I can start. Yeah. I think that art is a reflection of life. I don't know that for me, I only feel like I'm an expert in my own lived experience. And because of that, I don't know that my work is political unless you feel like it's political, right? If it speaks to you in that way, then that encourages me. But when I set out to create things, I set out to create something that is a mirror of my own life. That being said, I'm a Dominican man and I have a certain kind of lived experience that I hope does come through in the work that I do, but it's not something that I plan at the beginning. It's also true that most of the things that I plan to create never actually make it to a finished product. It starts it that way and then it kind of takes a left and then takes a right and then kind of comes back around. And once I'm done with it, I'm done with it. But I do think that again, art is an expression of life, and as such is an expression of politics, is an expression of some of the struggles that folks have gone through. Over the last year, I really loved all of the pandemic paintings, the paintings with masks on them. Again, just like a reflection of, what we have all gone through. I'm sure that will continue. But in terms of my own work, that's never at the forefront of what I set out to make or create.
Great. Same here with my work. I think you can view my work, or I can view my work within the context of what's going on in the world, but I really feel like what I'm doing is quite personal and divorced from anything that's happening politically. Although I am aware of all of the great art that's happening right now. If you look back through history, all of the great movements in art have been connected to some sort of political upheaval. And again, that's what's happening now. If you look at the work of Amy Sheffield, Noah Davis, Nick Cave, the list goes on, and the work that they're producing, especially as it relates to the Black Lives Matter movement, is pretty incredible. And to even be up here and to say those names, and in light of talking about my own work, I really can't do that. But I think as an artist, you have to be aware of all of the art that surrounds you and in the time that you're in, within the context you are, and in some way, even if it's not conscious, it must infiltrate what you do.
This question immediately like gave me like so much pressure, because it's just a natural pressure that I always have to send like certain messages and use activism through my work, and just be loud with my artwork about political things that are happening right now, because that's important. It's important to respond to things, but that's not always the case in my artwork. And so even though sometimes I do plan to do that, like Giovanni said, a lot of times that doesn't actually happen. But what does always happen and keeps us going is that someone can relate to it, right? And that's another reason why I love public art, because really it's supposed to make people feel like they belong, relatable, you know, excited, like someone understands them. And so it's, even if it's not the art, like artists cannot technically make policy changes, right, in the state house or the White House, but we can absolutely affect what's happening and change certain states of mind and just inspire people to think differently or feel understood. So that's where I'm at with things like that.
My next question is, how do you anticipate the changing times will affect the way artists value and price their work?
I absolutely am, like I had just mentioned before this year, I was like, I'm focusing on my career. I've got like one life to live, you know. After this whole pandemic, I'm ready for people to see my artwork. Actually, in September, I'll be having my first gallery show where I'll be showing work about my identity. And I think that was also inspired by like a lot of time that I spent alone, and also in the Dominican Republic with my family for 3 months during the pandemic, just like seeing and understanding what who I am and why, and how my family and generations of family have gotten here today. So I'm excited to share that, and excited that a lot of people are thinking about their roots and are kind of separating from what this world has kind of taught us, and realizing that it's important to just be who you are and really, really enjoy every second. And so I think artists are less thinking about finances right now. I know that sounds crazy, but I think artists right now are thinking about how to live their best lives, how to make artwork that's really about who they are and what they want to share, and not just for monetary reasons. And I think that the artists that are like, I definitely make art for money still, but even then it's like for survival purposes. And I really am more excited about just being loud about myself and art and experiences.
The pandemic has utterly crushed some sectors of the arts market, especially the performing arts. And so I think for these artists, this is a much more salient question. For a small practicing visual artist in the state of Rhode Island selling pieces through Instagram, I really don't feel like I can comment on the overall art market. But I was just having a really interesting conversation during the networking event about NFTs and the bubble created around this, what is ultimately going to be this very temporary phenomenon. And I think that points to the larger point of bubbles in the art market. It's really phenomena, right? Eventually they go away and there's another bubble. And I think if you're a practicing artist, if you concentrate or think too heavily about these things, you'll never pick up a paintbrush and make a painting and engage in this really deeply personal work. Yeah.
I agree with what both these women have said, and I think that it's it's tough because we live in America, which is very much a capitalist society, and you know, they'll make you think that you have to monetize everything that you do. And for me, I think that that takes away from my love of the work, and it also takes away from the enthusiasm that I have for starting a new project. Um, that being said, we do all have bills, and I think that um, it's very difficult to try to navigate both those spaces, navigate what it means to live in America. And again, I've never done art as my primary role. I've always been an educator, so I've been blessed to be able to like have that paycheck. And there's definitely privilege in that, but I also think that um, to have love for this, the money has to be set aside, and it's also kind of a necessary evil. Um, I'm talking in circles. I think I'm gonna stop it right there. Yeah.
Amazing answers. I love it. My next question is selling your art a side hustle or a main hustle? What is the positive or the negative that comes within?
I feel like I kind of already started this, so I'll try to finish my point. Um, it's definitely a side hustle. I think selling my pieces are my least favorite part of the work, and I think that trying to put a number on it is also very difficult when I know how much work and energy and like frustration goes into finishing a piece for me. So definitely a side hustle. If anybody has any tips and tricks, right now I'm like, maybe I'll sell it for the most money possible. Like maybe I'll just put a ridiculous tag on this so that nobody buys it, and I get to keep it for the rest of my life. But that's my approach right now. Maybe that'll change with time.
I have a tip for you. So pricing your artwork is really difficult, right? Like all of these feelings of insecurity tie into what you put as a price tag on your work. Am I good enough? Am I going to scare the person away? Am I asking too much? Is this person going to laugh in my face? But if you set up some sort of middle agent, like middleman person, like a third party, and you have all of the bargaining and pricing conversation go on through that third party, it takes away or strips away that whole uncomfortable element. And you can say in your head, this is how much I want to price this piece, and then tell the third party, this is how much I want to sell the piece for, and then have the potential buyer go through that third person. I have very minimal experience with this. This is something that we've just started to experiment with to no great results, but I'll keep you posted.
That is an amazing tip, and I will absolutely be using that. How much do people charge to be an assistant? Any takers? It's not as easy as it sounds, right? But I think it'll happen. It's very possible. Nothing is impossible, and I think I'm in need of that. I had an answer for the original question.
Say again. Is selling your art a side hustle or a main hustle? What is the positive or the negative that comes within?
So this year I made the transition, like I said, to make it my main hustle. And the negative is that things don't happen frequently enough. But the positive is that I can name my price and hold on to big amounts of money for the next few months. So although I don't have that third person, I've been breaking down that wall of fear that I had for a long time growing up of like, this is, too much to ask for, or I don't have as much experience, and I'm just naming things. And now what I do is I'm like, this is how much I got paid for this project. So this is what I need for this project. And there's just no science behind it. It's just what I'm saying. That's all.
So I had a buyer come to my studio to look at my pieces, and they asked about the price of one particular piece. And I gave the price, and I immediately felt embarrassed, and then started qualifying it. Like, this is why this is this much, and this is how much other things have sold for. And I just kept talking. And she said, you just name your price and stop talking. Just let the price hang in the air. You don't have to say anything. Just say the price and that's it. And I think that was really good advice. Just say your price. Why do you have to qualify it or back it up with anything? That's how much you don't go to like the Gap and buy a pair of pants and say, why are these $50? Right?
I already love that quote. Just name your price. That's amazing. My last question is, if you could give any advice to a young artist, what would it be?
I think that for me, and this could be for artists, or this could just be for students in general, I think that there is a steady set of noise that it's very easy to get lost in. So trying to live above that noise has been one of my survival methods. But beyond that, I think it's super important to know what your goal is, and not be tied to how you get there. I think that if you so we talked a little bit about Instagram, and inherently in social media there is this idea of competition, or you're comparing yourself to other people, people who, I don't know, have more followers, have more likes, whatever. That's kind of like that noise, right? Like that's, and if you're kind of stuck in that, that can really take away from your process, can really take away from your work. So knowing what your goal is, being unapologetic about that goal, and trying to live above that kind of steady stream of noise is, I think, my advice to anybody.
I think that's a great answer. Cut out the noise. My advice is just make work. Don't tune into the noise. Just keep making work. That's what I'm doing. And it feels right. And I keep meeting with success. And every time I meet with some small bit of success, I think, oh, I'm doing something right. And if I just keep doing this, then eventually I might really be onto something. So I'm kind of in the process of it. And that would be my advice to a young artist.
My advice would be discipline. Just like do what you say you want to do in the future, do it now. I spent a lot of time saying I want to do a lot of things. There's nothing wrong with that. And like there is nothing wrong with that, but when you do practice what you say you want to do, like for example, in high school I was doing murals, but also like smaller portraits and dance and acting and modeling in college, and I just did so many things that it distracted me, and coming back home really allowed for me to focus on painting again. And I've just been reaping the benefits of that. Really, everything you do consistently will always pay off. So just focus on, I know it's like the opposite of what people like to hear, but if you do focus on one thing, you really get a lot out of it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering these questions. We can finally let the audience into the chat.
Hi, everyone. Arnell Millhouse. Take two. And one of the challenges, by encouraging people to think into the future about creating new ideas, is that now we have to give them advice on how to make money doing that. And as I look at the space that everyone up there is involved in, the global art market brought in $64 billion in 2019. The pandemic hit a 22%, had a 22% impact, and it dropped down to $50 billion. Oh, right? They went from 64 billion down to only 50 billion. So the money is there. And when I began my career after graduating Johnson Wales many decades ago, when rocks were soft, I started off as a consultant, and I was charging $150 an hour. And I was really, really struggling getting any traction outside of the people and the companies that I knew. This one company brought me in, showed me proposals from other organizations, said, what's the difference? I said, they're charging $500 and $1,000 per hour as consultants. He says, yes, you seem like you're a homeless computer scientist at $150 an hour. You need to charge more, number one. He says, and your proposal looks like it came from Staples. They put some money behind theirs, and it looks like a multi-million-dollar company. And I can tell you that three out of five of these are not multi-million-dollar companies. And that's the reason why we didn't go with yours. So I increased my price at $500 an hour. I spent a lot of money on my branding and my marketing. And it reminded me, you know, he said this quote, he goes, Muhammad Ali has this quote. He said, I called myself the greatest long before I ever realized that I was. And I started putting myself out there as the greatest, and my marketing and my branding was far above and beyond probably where I was, but the jobs came running in. And, you know, I think, so I'm trying to probably give you some advice from Brown, the Nelson Center, myself. I've always wondered, because you've heard of Art Basel, right? In Basel, Switzerland, now they have Art Basel, Miami, Art Basel, Tokyo. You know, it would be really interesting to see a collaboration between CIC, Venture Café. I'm also an advisor on a foundation called the POC Foundation. And we would put money behind it if we could bring together 20 to 50 artists and also target everyone living in those houses up there. Invite the East Side to come in, cater these events to them. And I believe that they will come if you, and the number one factor for student startups succeeding at Brown is how much they utilize the network. So many people try to reinvent the wheel themselves, banging their heads against the wall, but they don't have the network. Even at Brown, I can tell if a company's going to be successful by simply asking, how many network-based calls have you made in the past 30 days, the past 60 days? And if it's under a certain threshold, I go, they're going to fail. Your network is your what? What's the saying? Your network is your net worth. It really is. Your network is your net worth. And if you're utilizing that network, and here's the executive director here of CIC, Rebecca Weber, and Toonie stepped out of the room, but I know that we love collaborating along the lines of helping out upstarts. And so I would, and you know that Giovanni, we just exchanged emails. So please reach out to me. And in the fall, there's some really interesting things going on. In fact, I'll drop this. So we're sponsoring one of the water fires, and it's going to be a BIPOC and, you know, women's based water fire. And there's going to be different pockets going throughout that water fire. And so we would love to have something showcased from your art community there. And I'm really big on NFTs and blockchain, so don't hate on it. It's going to transform. Right now, it's a lot of alchemy, and it will fail, but out of that failure will come a wealth of success.
Hey, I'm Carrie with Authentify Art. I spoke this morning at the talk. Thank you, Bellie. So I agree with Arnell. Network is important, but I think to have no shame is also important. So knock on every door, whether you know that person or not, is valuable. I think you value yourself for what you think your value is. That's what it is. Value your time. It's valuable. Authentify Art is a data company, and we are out trying to disrupt the art market. And so you guys are talking about the art world, but I think the art world transcends the market. And the market is this really small, isolated, controlled thing that is ripe for disruption. And that is what we need to do, right? Because everyone deserves access to art, and everyone deserves to understand the value of standing in front of a painting and experiencing that. Like, it speaks to you, right? And I think artists are a voice for this world, right? They speak to all of us in a way about something about life that we don't see in our commercial space and our daily life, and we get so busy. And so I think it's so important that artists know, like, yes, business is a part of it because we're a capitalist society and that's what we do. But artists, I think, are a breakthrough for life. Like there's so much to be said and to be had and to be deserved. And I think for my position in Authentify Art, like that's my mission, right? I came in and I was not part of the art world. And when I came in, I was like, what is happening here? Like, what is this market? Like, what is this? And so I stood behind the mission. I was like, no, we're going to change this. This is going to be different. We're going to make this big and we're going to make this for everyone, right? Because I think artists are so important, right? They're so important. And everyone needs to understand that art is not for the richest people or for the people, you know, that are the most important or the highest or privileged. That is not what art is at all. Art is an experience to have, to be grounded and to be present and to be in your life and to be good citizens and to be, you know, great friends and to just be with each other. And so I think networking is important and understanding what the space is, but disrupting the space. And I feel like with NFTs and with blockchain and with all of this technology, there's a movement happening. Artists are coming together, and the pandemic brought all the different kind of artists together and saying like, we're here and we're not going to let this dynamic of what the art market is and other people representing us control us any longer, right? We're going to go direct to the consumer and we're going to get out here, and public art is art, right? And who defines fine art? Do you have to die for it to be fine art? Like, what is fine art? You know, there's no good definition, right? And so I think the moment is yours to take. And I think we should be here just to encourage that and experience that and be there for that, right? And like, let's take advantage of the networks and the companies and the opportunities that are out there. Like, yes, we are capitalists. There is money out there that makes change, but we just got to grab it because everyone is anxious to be a part because they know that it inspires and it innovates, but they don't know how to make it work. You know, we've been out there and we've been fundraising and figuring this out, and VCs are like, I don't know the art world. That makes no sense to me. And so you just got to educate them and let them know what the opportunity is. And I think there's so much opportunity, you know, and your value is what you make of it, right? And I think the sky's the limit. I think we have so much further to go and there's so much opportunity. And I think the art market won't be 70 billion, it will be 70 trillion, right? Like there's so much opportunity. And I think it's truly going to change the world. So I think you guys are awesome.
Okay, so I'm not an artist, but I know how to promote people. I've actually worked with artists. I've actually had clients who are artists that I've gotten into the Library of Congress. I have a client right now that I'm getting ready to get their piece into the African American Museum. Your work is worth money. Don't let anybody say that you should not be giving it away. You just need to have somebody to represent you, and don't be afraid to leave the community. You don't have to get your art seen just in Rhode Island. There are other communities, especially up and down the East Coast, where there are a lot of affluent, wealthy people of all colors who are willing to buy art. I know because I know some people who've done that close to me. And I'm a shameless plug, but I would like to speak to you about how I can help you get some shows outside of Rhode Island in some communities where you can get your work seen in front of wealthy people who have money to spend, but spend on your art what it's worth. So feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Hey, Keith Rinaldi from PVD Young Makers, Fab Newport. Congratulations, Bellie, on your first event. So, I mean, and I have the privilege of working with Bellie, and so I know, you know, where her inspiration comes from, and as a newly found curator of sorts, I understand, like, you know, where Bellie draws inspiration from, and I was really curious to hear where each of you draw your inspiration from and what mediums you use. And then the one last thing is, do you have like a new project that you've been either thinking about or like underway? So love to hear like your inspirations for, you know, what you do, kind of your favorite mediums, and whether like something in the future you're kind of bubbling or working on.
Dancing with the mics. So Keith, thank you for that amazing transition back into you know, just art and why and what it's about for us just naturally. I get inspired by my community, and I don't mean to bring that up so much. I know it's kind of corny, but like literally my community in Providence growing up and now is still kind of the same. I have a friend group of friends that are, I mean, people in and out. Like I'm just very friendly and outgoing, and we invite each other to shows all the time. Like if there's an art show and my friend can't vend, like she can vend. She's gonna vend at my table. Um, and we're just like that, you know. If I know that this event might make more money than that event, I'll tell my friends like, hey, come over here, I'll make some space for you, you know. And I mean, if it weren't for that, I don't think I would be inspired to keep going and keep making art. And I get really inspired by that. Even like parties, I get really inspired by parties in Providence with my friends. Like it's just so fun, and the culture, and just inspired by Providence creative culture a lot right now. And always, I've always been. Um, and right now I'm working, actually before coming here, the reason I was late is because I was like really trying to like finish painting some letters on this mural that I'm painting for Lowe's. Lowe's is celebrating their 100th anniversary. They opened in 1921, and in 2021, obviously it's 100 years later. And they selected 100 artists to paint 100 murals at 100 store locations in America. And my mural will be at the Warwick location. So yeah. Thanks, y'all.
Wow. That's great. Somewhat more humble. I, not that you're not humble, but the not as on a grander scale. I really am inspired by the connection between architecture and nature. And I feel like that grand show is sort of always on display in New England, especially in Providence. So I really explore that in my work, whether it's conscious or not when I'm working. And then in terms of new things bubbling or new ideas, and what a great question for an artist. I need to work larger. I'm trying to get bigger and kind of bust out of my size comfort zone. So preparing some surfaces that are much larger, and really working to kind of create what I'm trying to do on a larger scale. So that's kind of my next step. Oh, in my medium, I work mostly oil on paper and some acrylic. I like to mix acrylic with a medium called walnut ink. It's this really cool ink. If any of you are painters, you can buy it in any art supply store with the inks, and it's this like really rich kind of brown tone watery ink. And I like to mix it with acrylic. And it gives all of your paint this sort of warm, rich tone. I use it as like a medium. And then I love oil. You can really capture the color just stays so vibrant. And when you paint on paper, you can't be precious with paper. Like if it doesn't come out good or the way you want it to, you just toss it, right? And I feel like some of my most successful pieces are when I just paint on paper, because you can't, the material doesn't support you being precious. You just kind of act intuitively, and if it doesn't work out, you move on. So.
For me, I draw a lot of my inspiration from both my lived experience, but also from people. I have done a little bit of traveling in my life, and between traveling and some of the solitude that I engulf myself in, that's where I do a lot of my thinking. That's where I do a lot of my processing, and that's where I do a lot of the kind of internal work that I think tends to show up in my canvases. Most this past year, I've translated and to working mostly with acrylic. Before this, I've done chalk murals. Never for public consumption. I have a chalkboard wall at my house that I'll create something on and look at for a while, and then get tired of and empty it out. But in terms of a project that I'm currently working on, my goal is to have my own solo exhibition one day. So Right now, I am just focused on creating as much as possible and making as many canvases and paintings as possible to one day be able to show it out to everybody. I'm not necessarily tied to Providence, so I'll be looking for you later.
Wait, do we have any other questions or anyone? Sorry, does anyone else want to talk about what they do? A little bug. What they do or stuff like that. So, oh, great. So I am a young artist. I don't really like to categorize what type of art that I do. My art is this bug. My art, I like to categorize my art really free and expressive. My artwork does go into my mental health journey. So it's not very abstract, nor is it very classical or very far into the world, but my artwork does represent me and who I am. And who I am. I am also a writer and a poet. I am writing my first book about me, and it's going to be called I'm Not Perfect, which I truly do like to tell people I'm not a perfect person. I do make my own mistakes. I do create a lot of chaos sometimes, but I always try. Oh, oh, Jesus. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, I am a writer, I'm a poet. I do love to write my own poems and express myself instead of talking to people, because I'm mostly not a lot of a person that comes straight to you. I'm mostly a person that's for people to come to me. But I do love, I am a family person, I am a writer. So that's mostly my art and my writing. But I do work with PDM makers. Okay, I'm gonna come right here. Yeah, I do work with a group called PDO Makers. I worked with Keith for many years, my freshman year, and Keith is like a mentor to me and someone who I can truly just go to and be like, hey, what are we doing today? What are we doing? And start just settling down. But when I actually started this project, I was working here with Amy and Tuni on Wednesday and Fridays. And it was kind of like, to be true, I was kind of bored. I was just sitting down, just greeting people, telling the chef like self-check-in. I was like, what am I doing? Because I'm a med student and most of our internships I've done, I'm mostly running around and doing more hands-on work. So just like sitting there, I was like, you know what? I might as well just leave and find another opportunity. And Keith was like, yeah, stop right there. We're not doing it. And then I started this big old project called the Future Creative Minds because I am an artist myself. I'm also a young fashion designer myself also. So it was like, okay, what do I choose? The art world or the fashion world? I was like, you know what? I tried interviewing people for the fashion world. It's not really working. Let me get into the art world. And that's when my networking got really big and Keith started helping me more and more. And then this event happened and I got to meet y'all and it was really amazing. I got to meet Kara and Amy and Tuni and then you guys came in. So it was like family and friends and then new people. So I really want to thank everyone for coming. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.